Council of Provinces. Delegates in the hybrid sitting enjoy the same powers and privileges that apply in the sitting of the National Council of Provinces. The interpretation facility is active. Permanent delegates, members of the executive, special delegates, and Sangha representative are requested to ensure that the interpretation facility on their gadgets are properly activated to facilitate access to the interpretation services. Any delegate who wishes to speak must use raise hand function. All delegates may participate in the discussion through the chat room. Connect to the virtual platform as well as insert their cards to register on the chamber system. Honorable delegates, in accordance with the Council Rule 229 subsection 1, there will be no notices of motion or motion without notice. Honorable delegates, before we proceed to the question, I would like to take this opportunity to welcome the Minister from the Governance Cluster, specifically the Minister in the Presidency for Governance, Honorable Minister Ngungubele, the Minister for Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities, Honorable Nkwana Mashabane, MEC and all permanent special delegates to the House. Further, I would like to make the following remarks. Honorable Ministers, the time for reply by the Minister to a question is strictly 5 minutes. Only 4 supplementary questions are allowed per question. A member who has asked the initial question will be the first to be afforded the opportunity to ask the supplementary question. The time for asking a supplementary question is 2 minutes. The time for reply to supplementary question is 4 minutes. The supplementary question must emanate from the initial question. I will now call upon Minister in the Presidency for Governance to respond to question number 43 asked by Honorable Shaik. I've been informed that Honorable Moimang will be standing in for Honorable Shaik. Honorable Minister, I think it will be in order to have the facility. Honorable Minister, if you can have the facility in front, I think it will be convenient and you'll have your paper. Yes. It will really assist you. You are dealing with the first question, question number 43.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson of the NCOP, honorable members. The department's mandate is to facilitate, influence, and support effective planning, monitoring, and evaluation of government programs, aid at improving service delivery outcomes and the impact on society. DBMB does not have an integrated government-wide early warning system to track and/or detect policy failures and poor implementations. Currently, the department uses a number of instruments, processes, and methodologies as a government-wide early warning system. Amongst those examples include monitoring a National Development Plan 2030 through tracking implementation of the medium-term strategy framework biannual report. The MTSF biannual report provides progress with the implementation of the sustained agenda of government. In the development of the MTSF biannual reports, the DMP draws data from all its monitoring systems. The MTSF provides a warning to Cabinet on where challenges are and clearly indicates where targets are not likely to be met. This offers Cabinet an early warning system indicating which indicators of the sustained agenda will not be met. assessing quality of management practices and delivery in local government through the local government management improvement model. The LGMM is based on proactive approach in support of the objective of achieving responsive, accountable, effective, and efficient developmental local government system. It assists in identifying and resolving institutional problems, thereby ensuring that municipalities meet the minimum floor of norms and standard of good institutional performance. The rollout of LGMM is currently in its 9th year since its inception and pilot. To date, 262 municipal assessments have been concluded with metropolitan, district, and local municipalities having participated in the program. Of the total, 12 were assessed during 2013-14 financial year in the pilot phase. 30 municipalities were assessed in 2014-15, 2015-16 financial year, respectively. 41 municipalities were assessed during the 2016-17 financial year. 33 municipalities during the 2017 financial year. 37 municipalities during the 2018-19. Frontline service delivery monitoring system. The DPME also conducts frontline monitoring visits through which trends and challenges with call-phase service delivery are tracked, emerging trends are identified, and policy failures are also detected. This serves as early warning. Through this improvement, plans are then developed in consultation with the relevant stakeholders to address issues. FSD monitoring visits are currently underway, focusing on ideal clinics and safe schools. Monitoring the SONA commitments is another tool. Following each State of the Nation address, the TPME and the Presidency collaborate to design instruments for tracking progress with SONA commitments. The TPME compiles reports for the President on the state of progress with these commitments, the more recent having been produced in June 2022. Currently, the TPME does not have a complete digital government-wide early warning system, which is interoperable. The TPME aims to introduce a digital monitoring system, taking advantage of advances in the digital technology. To track progress towards government annual performance plans, the TPME builds on quarterly reports that are submitted through the existing electronic platform, which enables a single view of performance across nation and provincial government departments. Through these reports, TPME can track the state of performance on quarterly basis and engage affected departments. There's currently an endeavor to reform the monitoring evaluation system, starting with effective monitoring of infrastructure programs and the State of the Nation address. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Minister. First follow-up questions from Honorable Memang, standing in for Honorable Shaik. Honorable Memang. Can you have the mic on for, yes, it's on.
Thank you, House Chair. Let me also express my appreciation to the manner in which the Honorable Minister gave a comprehensive response to the question posed. The thrust of what the Honorable Minister said illustrates the commitment to forge a solid and seamless synergy with all government departments, entities, social partners, including also the local government sphere, with a view to ensure that plans are aligned to strategies and objectives. Now, the question that I want to pose to Honorable Minister is, when do we envisage to have the integrated development planning framework bill finalized, and kindly update the House in terms of what are the thrusts of that integrated development planning framework bill? Thank you, Honorable House Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Minister.
Honorable Chair, can you repeat the last sentence?
What is the objective of the integrated development planning framework bill, and when do we envisage to have it finalized? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. Currently, as we speak, we have an MNE system that speaks in a more focused manner to national and province. And I've already spoken about what I refer to as government, as local government management improvement model, which is based on a proactive approach in support of the objectives of achieving a responsive, accountable, effective, and efficient development system. I've already said that in terms of the government-wide integrated system, it is what we are working on in a more digitized way. Until we put this together, we are going to be able to actually give a more pronounced and a more seamless and a more clearer reporting in this area. As I've already said, the tools we're using now to close that gap until that integrated system in a digitized way is in place. We said we have having a national development plan. To actually actualize its implementation, we use a medium-term strategic framework as one tool. And we also use the frontline service delivery monitoring system. And lastly, we also use monitoring the SONA commitments of the president. They close the gap of the absence of that integrated system. And of course, they don't fully replace its efficiency. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. The second follow-up question is from Honourable Ryder. Honourable Ryder.
Thank you, House Chair. Minister, we appreciate you attending here in person today. Thank you very much for coming. Minister, many of the laws and regulations that are passed by your cabinet have unintended consequences. I don't think anyone can see into the future and see all of the outcomes of the laws that they pass, but I'd like to focus on the moratorium that was placed on the evictions during COVID-19 state of disaster. It was well-intentioned to prevent people from being unfairly evicted, but it also gave opportunity to land invaders to manipulate the regulations and move with impunity. Now, 2 years later, we have thousands of shacks and even brick and mortar structures that have been built. And there's a demand on municipalities to provide services to these locations that have been built. The Jackson's Drift settlement in Aikenhof is one such settlement. So never mind an early warning system. It seems that you haven't even got a late warning system. Minister, what is the plan to help municipalities to deal with these unplanned and unserviced and resultantly unhygienic settlements that have been brought about by bad regulations? How does Cabinet intend rolling back these illegal land invasions, which were protected by yourselves? Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Honourable Member. I guess from your own words, you are acknowledging the fact that the circumstances of COVID dictated unorthodox means or unorthodox measures of dealing with that situation. Amongst others, trying to put a halt to evictions so as to be able to manage the biggest threat of the time, which was transmission. Indeed, there could have been unorthodox measures leading to unintended consequences, something you are correct we have to deal with. But I'm sure you will remember even before COVID, our country has been faced with the challenge of illegal, what we call invasion, which have got serious implications for service delivery. Our view is that the long-term sustainable solution there is to implement the law. But whilst you implement the law, you have to implement it in line with its prescripts. For instance, if people, as you know, the history of our country is confronted with dispossession, displacement, and then post-94, people up in arms demanding that which is actually due to them. You've got that just justified anger, and desperation. At the same time, having committed ourselves that our transformation is going to be a legal one. The combination of those two is not an easy job, but however, we are committed to ensure that law is implemented. But at the same time, you will not ignore people who find themselves in an open space, who need water, who need sanitation, and so on. So in other words, it's livelihood and lives at the same time. So we are trying to balance that, but the sustainable way is to make sure that we implement our laws. If I may use one example, Chair, as we were looking at the floods in KZN, one went to the Bayhead Bridge, where they were able to show us in the hinterlands of the railway infrastructure how informal settlements invade the railway lines and remove the vegetation, which creates erosion. By so doing, undermine the functionality of the railway system, which is key in delivering a lot of key strategic goods to the coast where they are supposed to be sold somewhere so that our economy can improve. In other words, there's a multiplicity of issues that we try to do. It's quite a long way, but something has to be done about it. I'm in agreement.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. The third follow-up question is from Honourable Mateula.
Nakensa Chairperson, Minister, the public policy implementation in South Africa is faced with countless problems and challenges, which have resulted in public policy not yielding the expected result, as stated in the public policy directive of said public policy documents. Will the warning system also detect the challenges faced across provinces, such as non-compliances of public policy, lack of knowledge, skills, experience, and expertise in local government? If not, why not? If so, please provide details. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The Minister of Finance, in his budget speech this year, spoke very strongly about the state of local government. We therefore are not surprised the interventions that are taking place in municipalities like Queenstown, Gijima, and Mangaung, and a number of these municipalities. It is an acknowledgement of the state of the capacity of local government and its manifestations. If you let the minister would have said, one of the problems we have there is the skills, is resources, and to some degree, he also referred to even the political leadership of those municipalities. All those combined constitute the capacity limitations, which if not resolved, we are not going to be able to actually deal with the issues that you are speaking about. But what I'm saying is that there is an intervention in that regard. Has it got to be improved? At all material terms, we assess our interventions and continue to improve them where they prove to be weak. Thank you, Honourable Chair.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. The fourth follow-up question is from Honourable Dutoit.
Thank you, Honourable Chair, Honourable Minister. According to journals.co.za, the challenges with policy implementation are, among others, a lack of resources, inadequate skills or training, inadequate staffing of personnel, slow response time of supplies. And Minister, I want to know, it's welcomed that there is an early warning system to some extent. But what is done to address the issue of incompetent and inadequate staff in this regard? It's no use that we have early warning systems that tell us where the problems are with implementation if we don't address the issue that the policies are not implemented as a result of staff. Thank you, Minister.
Thank you, Honourable Minister.
Thank you very much, Honourable Member. You know, I think the biggest challenge is to deal with issues of leadership. And the general will all agree upon that. Why is this critical? Is that from my experience as a mayor in a municipality, we didn't have all the skills we required. But some of you will remember on record, our municipalities at some stage, I think it was 2015, not 2014, it was declared the best run municipality. It is not because we had all the skills we wanted. It's because leadership was provided in a more consistent and a more sustained way. When I say this, I sometimes use the laboratories in the rural communities. A lot of best scientists have come from the rural communities where there is no laboratory infrastructure because of discipline in the environment, properly led institutions, because they say where there's a will, there's always a way. So we are focusing on turning around leadership, even more than dry skills. So that's what we're looking at now. 2 days ago, the entire cabinet, it involved premiers. The premier of the Western Cape was there, Gauteng, and a number of premiers. This is the matter now that is being focused on. In 2 weeks' time, we are revisiting that discussions so that we can come out with a way forward to deal exactly with the issues that you have just raised. Thank you, Honorable Member.
Thank you. Before we can proceed, Honorable Minister, as NCOP, we like to acknowledge a graduate trainee to the NCOP, Ms. Nikita Ensign. We're trying our little that we can in terms of capacity development. Nikita, if you can raise your hand so that they can see you in front. Thank you. Thank you. We're not just asking the questions to ministers in terms of skills development, but we're trying to lead by example under leadership of the chair and the deputy chair. Honorable Minister, we now come to question number 3-4 asked by Honorable Browdenson. Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. The key actions undertaken by DPME include monitoring the disbursements of funds, use of the funding, implementation of key interventions, and to establish the extent to which the desired results are met in line with 3-phase approach announced by the President. At the onset of the flood disaster, DPME provided guidance and support to affected provinces and municipalities to reprioritize and allocate funding to implement the planned flood disaster intervention. In collaboration with National Treasury, DPME supported offices of the Premier in KwaZulu-Natal, Eastern Cape, Northern Cape, and Northwest on the revision of annual performance plans and adjustments to 2022-23 budget allocation to incorporate the impact of the disaster. In other words, the revision of this performance plan was to adjust because of the impact the disaster would have caused. DPME also intensified its monitoring and reporting efforts to identify gridlocks and bottlenecks and the disbursements of funds and the delivery of the interventions. During the monitoring process, DPME observed that funding requests were slow due to the delays in completing assessments and verification of damages that needed to be done before funding applications could be submitted. A similar observation was noted by the National Treasury in its reports to the Oversight Committee on National State of Disaster on the impact of severe weather events and the Parliamentary Ad Hoc Joint Committee on Flood Disaster Relief and Recovery established Flood Disaster Management Coordination Structure. Although National Treasury, 1st August 2022, reported that the momentum has picked up concerning funding applications to the various funding streams, their processing, approval, and release of funding There were concerns about the pace of spending the allocation, even when those processes are improved. The requirement of real-time audit has added to the timeframes needed to finalize procurement for various interventions. DPME monitoring reports were used to engage government departments and entities such as National Disaster Management Center and the National Treasury to identify and implement actions to address bottlenecks. Furthermore, DPME worked with the provincial departments, municipalities, and National Treasury to develop alternative strategies to address the bottlenecks. Going forward, DPME will continue monitoring both disbursements and implementation, make the evidence available, and continue to engage with department, municipalities, and National Treasury to increase the pace of disbursement and delivery. Other initiatives that will be monitored and reported on are the recommendation by the Forum of Directors General meeting that the disaster management system be overhauled. Recommendation to the National Disaster Management Center that all provinces that are affected be requested to present to Net Joints Focus, NJFFC, their consolidated information on the funding application they have submitted and or intend to submit, highlighting specific challenges hampering submission of such applications and the nature of support required. This will enable identification of relevant capacity to provide support where required. The provinces are expected to present detailed reports listing specific projects where grant expenditure have been utilized or planned to be utilized. Thank you, Honorable Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. The first follow-up question is from Honorable Presidency. Presidency is right at the back. Can we have that mic at the back? On the side of KZN, the last row at the back.
Chairperson, these systems no longer indicate where you must sit. And frankly, I think it's a bit childish that we as adults cannot turn our own microphones on. I really think it's quite ridiculous. But Chairperson, thank you very much nevertheless. Welcome, Nikita. Would you like to answer the question? You want to have a go? I'm just joking. Honourable Minister Gungubeli, thank you very much for being here with us today. It's a pleasure. Thank you very much for your response to the question. And Minister, I speak as a member of the ad hoc committee on the floods. And so this is not grandstanding or taking a shot. It's out of great concern for the people of KwaZulu-Natal, Eastern Cape, Northwest that are really struggling at the moment. You said that you've been monitoring the disbursement of funds and the use of the funds and identifying gridlocks. It would be great if you could give us an idea, if you are indeed doing that, how much funds have been dispersed and what are they being used for? And then you also, what concerns me is that you've identified gridlocks and that the funding is proceeding very slowly. It's very concerning that at the 1st of August, we're picking that up. We should have been picking up that funding was moving very slowly, surely in April or May, and had an urgent intervention at that point to make sure that funding flowed. Myself, along with members, the House Chair today, Honourable Mohambi and Honourable Khai, were in Johannesburg on the 1st of July, and we were told there by the relevant officials that they'd received literally only a handful of applications. And I literally said to them, do you mean a handful? It was a turn of phrase. They said, no, a handful. And that is extremely concerning. So my question is, can you give us some insight in terms of the flow of funding at the moment, what it's being used for? We haven't had any AG reports yet. And then also, can you advise the revised disaster management plan? Obviously, it will fall very much within your mandate. When do you think we could look at having a new national revised disaster management plan? Thank you, Minister.
Thank you. Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Honourable Member. You've asked me about the financial data and the The last time I came across that, I'm trying to,
No, Honorable Minister, to assist so that you can assist the House. The rules are clear, not unless, if you don't have something that is to do with some statistics, you have to provide in writing. But if it's a general question, you can deal with it. But the relevant question so that the House can be assisted in terms of the nature of the stats out of the details.
thank you very much. It's going to be difficult, I remember, to give you the specific figures. But all what we can tell you is that the last time I looked at it, not long ago, few days, it could be around 2 billion, but we need to give the detail of how that has been done. And of course, the other question you asked, if you may repeat it, is on the National Disaster Plan. I didn't actually hear the question.
Honorable President, your latter part of your question, no, the one on next to you.
That's moving.
No, the,
Hey. Yeah, I think the House Chair is having fun with me today. Minister, look, I think that we're all aware, and I certainly indicated this in the joint debate in the Good Hope Chamber, is this is not going to be the last one. Climate change means that we're going to have storms like this again, and perhaps not in 20 years' time, but maybe in 2, 3, 4, 5 years' time. So I'm asking, you mentioned that you are working on a revised disaster management plan. So can you give us an idea of when that might be in place? Because I think we may need it sooner rather than later to be ready for this sort of thing. Thank you.
No, thanks, I remember, I'm always careful of, if you can switch, careful of pronouncing your surname. It's not very easy.
Proudden said.
You know, I remember we've all accepted that our disaster capacity leaves much to be desired. The president has said it himself. For instance, if you look at the time it took to just give an interim assessment of the damage for an interim intervention to a long-term to permanent assessment for permanent plan to deal with the situation. Normally, it took a couple of weeks to come to that. Ideally, when a disaster management system works, the interim assessment need to take days. A week is too long because normally there are damages that need immediate what we call intervention. You will go, for instance, to industrial area in eThekwini, what happened to Toyota, the disconnection in energy, some of those issues, they were supposed to have been assessed with immediate effect, and so that to prevent an irreparable damage, you intervene timely. And as far as that part is concerned, we've agreed that our national disaster management system needs a significant revision bordering on overhaul. And it's a matter, I discussed this last night, I think this morning, if not last night, with the Minister of Kokta. We discussed it for, I think, a month ago with her. We agree that the DPME must immediately lead a system of overhauling that, exactly in view of what you have said, that the climate change is here to stay with us, the vulnerability of the placement of our people, in particular that was exposed in KZN. We need urgently to be in a position, even before completing the required capacity, there should be interim measure with regard to how do we deal with this situation. But to say by when, my biggest prayer as soon as possible, if it was possible this year, but I'm very careful of timeline, until we put together, having analyzed, we need a scientific, complete analysis of the problem so that we've got a clear plan. Once we have those two, one is able to say in 5 months' time or in 3 months' time, but I want to argue as soon as possible. It's a matter that can wait.
You can be safe, Honorable Minister, to call him Honorable TJ. So that you don't struggle. Say Honorable TJ, it's fine. A second follow-up question is from Honorable Mama Rohan.
Thanks, Honorable House Chairperson. Honorable Minister, according to media reports, it appears that central to the delays is the costing of the required projects by the municipalities and the provinces to the National Treasury. If this is true, has the department considered advising the National Treasury and other affected national sector department to deploy teams to the affected municipalities to assist with the costing and other related financial management issues as part of the fast tracking the rollout funds? Thanks.
Thank you, Honorable Minister.
Thanks, Honorable Member. That's a logical requirement because one of the challenges we've been confronted with, it's a correct assessment, that it has been a struggle costing the damage in some areas, not all of them. Minister of Finance and his team having actually found that, and the Monitoring Evaluation Unit having found that, we've been actually trying to interact with the affected institutions to do the best we can assist in that regard, with Treasury being involved. For instance, if you listen to my response, in my response, I'm saying, one of the things DPME did, immediately this disaster caused this damage. What we have done was, it meant unplanned resources being required and against the budgeted resources, which did not anticipate disaster. TPME has gone in again to assist various spheres, be it local and province, to actually adjust their performance plans to make sure that they take into account the unplanned resource requirement. But in short, yes, we've tried our best. I'm very much convinced that a lot still needs to be done in assisting them. The fact that now there's been an improvement, it is a result of an attempt to assist. There's still a lot of gap, because at the end of the day, no matter how much assistance you give, if the minimum capacity to actually take advantage of that assistance is not yet there, there'll still be a gap. But that exercise has been carried.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. The third follow-up question is from Honorable Hatebe.
Thank you, House Chair. Honorable Minister, what commitments for consequence management will be undertaken to ensure that these funds are not misappropriated and to ensure that the funds released to help those affected by this disaster reach their intended recipients? Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Pungane. Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. That's quite a very critical question. Honorable members will remember that the President announced AG coming in timelessly. Immediately interventions were taking place so that the real-time auditing is done. Indeed, that is ongoing. What does it mean? It means AG sits with Treasury on regular basis to be advised on the key transactions that need to be followed. Normally, preceding that, they would have refreshed their minds for a common understanding on the principles to follow. Remember, this is a disaster situation. It means adapting the procedures to actually approve funding. It means things being done quicker. Then AG together with Treasury have organized a system that ensures that no matter what speed that approval is done, there's real-time auditing to check if transactions have followed the normal procedures. And you will realize, if I'm not being naughty, that some have delayed now making applications because they know it has to go through that. And some have said there's a slow approval. Not all of them are victims of slow approval. Some of them is because there's a reluctance to follow the real-time auditing, which is in the which is in the line of sight between the Treasury and AG. So those are interventions. We have not yet been briefed about any alarming developments. We are watching the space. Thanks.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. The fourth follow-up question is from Honourable Lutuli on the, oh, it's going to be Honourable Lehihi. Honourable Lehihi. Honourable Lehihi is right at the corner on the side of Limpopo at the end. Yes.
Thank you, Chairperson.
Have the mic closer to you. Thank you.
Kaleboga. Chairperson, it has been over 4 months since the devastating floods and 4 months since the lives of thousands of homeless victims have deteriorated, as they are still housed in halls in areas like Verulam and Stangers. As the provincial and national government go back and forth with the process of accessing the 1 billion that was promised to assist flood victims in KwaZulu-Natal. Minister, when will the 1 billion in relief funding which was promised be made available to the people of KZN? And who is going to assist eThekwini access relief? Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Minister.
Thank you very much, Honourable Member. We have explained the issue of 1 billion several times. That it is not 1 billion exclusively for KwaZulu-Natal. That there's always that amount is always there for immediate intervention. And it has been explained, the processes that are followed, that different, in particular provinces, they always have every year the emergency allocation of this kind, so that if it occurs, they first use what is at their disposal. If what is at their disposal has been stretched, they are able to access that 1 billion through human settlement. Part of it is in the human settlement, part of it is in COGTA. Together, it makes that billion. As I've already said to you, the recent stats I had, close to 2, if not more than 2 billion money that has been released. Because remember, the 1 billion is for interim. There's a damage which is not budgeted for, and you have to then start allocating even beyond that 1 billion. There is that amount whose stats I said will actually be provided. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. Honourable Minister, we now come to question number 44, asked by Honourable PB. Oh, Mama. Honourable Minister.
Question 44. It is asked by who, Honourable Chair?
It's question from Honourable PB. 44. 44.
44.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Yes, the DPME has continued to engage with various stakeholders in the broader society to find ways to collaborate in efforts to strengthen planning, monitoring and evaluation. Various platforms have been created for this to happen. Key engagement includes the DPME active engagement as a member of collaboration on various activities with South African Monitoring and Evaluation Association. Among the 2022-23 activities are the co-hosting of the SAMIA conference to be held in September 2022, and the development of South African Evaluation Evidence Map, which is intended to serve as public knowledge resource on evaluation. Engagements with the other interface involve engagement with civil society stakeholders within the context of the implementation and monitoring of National Anti-Corruption Strategy, ACTS. DPME recently engaged with Business Unity South Africa to explore collaborations on unlocking bottlenecks in the economy and develop a toolkit for information sharing The department has also led similar engagements between the DGs in the economic cluster and the Black Business Council. TPME has facilitated engagement between various government departments to devise a strategy on rural development. This includes workshops attended by Minister Didiza and various government departments. The National House of Traditional Leaders has also been part of these processes. In the wake of recent flood disaster in KwaZulu-Natal, TPME met with Durban Chamber of Commerce as a way to get business views on the endeavors to improve government response to disaster. TPME has similarly had engagement with the United Nations South Africa, specifically the UNDP, to benchmark best practices from other countries on their responses to disaster and how they monitor disaster and relief efforts. TPME has actually partnered with research institutions such as National Research Foundation, GTech, and higher education institutions to prepare for SA COVID-19 country report, which records the measures and interventions adopted by South Africa to combat the spread of the virus. The TPME has consulted with civil society representatives and experts on planning policy and is working with various experts on planning methodologies such as modeling, foresight, and scenario planning. TPME coordinates, monitors, and reports on the implementation of National Food and Nutrition Security Plan 2018-23. This work entails tracking interventions implemented by 10 national government departments, provinces, as well as civil society organizations in the country, such as South African Civil Society for Women, Adolescents, and Children's Health. These interventions are aimed at optimizing food security and good nutrition. The other issue is the colloquium that is annually held. Thank you, Honorable Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. The first follow-up is from Mama, Honorable Pipi.
Oh, Baba. I love you, Baba.
Love you more.
Ngibonge sihlalo. Baba, ngethuba onginikeza lona ngiphinde ngibonge futhi kumphathiso omnyango baba. Ukuthi ukwazile ukuthi uphendule kahle umbuzo wami. Ukuthi ngempela umnyango wakho uyakwazi ukuthi usebenze nenhlaka ezehlukene ukuze sikwazi ukuthi sihlangabezane nokuthi siphuhlise phela omasipala bethu. Kodwa ke umbuzo wami ngizowubuza ngale limi lontaba kayikhonjwa ngoba ngifuna ukuthi ubaphendule kahle baba ukuthi bezwe ukuthi umnyango wakho usebenza kanjani. My question is, has the department in collaboration with the sector departments considered piloting a structured partnership, especially with the built engineering and water resource management sector, to address some of the pertinent challenges that are facing our municipalities? Ngiyabonga baba, mphathiso wenu.
Thank you, Mama. Honorable Minister.
I think
Sorry, Honorable Ryder.
No translation coming through, so if you can just check what this.
No, I will attend to it so that they attend to it. Honorable Minister.
Sorry, Honorable Member, you referring to partnering with the engineering sector? Okay, sector, well, that's fine. Well, one of the important challenges in the results-based management, approach, which others prefer to refer to it as logic framework, for it to be fruitfully and productively done, you need to work with structures like the one you've just spoken about. Because when I was in Parliament, there is an oversight model which Parliament is supposed to follow when doing oversight. It's cyclical in nature. It's got beams, which is called budget information metrics and budget oversight model, and the part I like is the toolkit part. That toolkit part requires the skills you've just spoken about. Because what does it do? It assists wherever there are commitments to produce certain outputs. It trains all of us, those who are doing oversight, to be able to analyze that which is projected or committed to be done, whether it makes sense in terms of money committed, whether it makes sense in terms of the time frame also committed. Because there are those technical requirements, it calls strongly not just to introduce quality leaders in the municipality, also introduce people with those skills. Because all these M&E processes, for them to be effectively done, you need all the aspects of the skills required for that exercise. In other words, what I'm to say, indeed, we are in agreement with that. It's one of the efforts that are being pursued.
Thank you, Minister. The second follow-up question is from Honorable Dutoit. Honorable Dutoit.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Honorable Minister, this is a very broad subject, and I think that's to our advantage. You just mentioned that the support that is given from other entities, engineers, we're looking at leadership in municipalities. We're sitting with a situation in the JB Marks municipality, where construction of a disaster center was started, millions of rands were spent. Engineers advised the municipality to stop the construction because of flaws of the contractor that was appointed. And then an administrator was appointed under Section 139, and he then basically forced the whole process to proceed. At the end of the day, that disaster center hasn't been finalized yet. There are a lot of questions around money spent to that regard. Minister, my question is, in situations like that where you approach the provincial legislature and you ask them to intervene and to give a closeout report of the administrator, and that is not given after requesting it time and time again from the Premier, what is the next step to be taken to see to it that there is accountability and that the oversight role is played sufficiently? Thank you, Minister.
Yeah.
Thank you, Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. None of you is trying to make my day easy. It's fine. I'm at work. I think what is agreed is that in the few days where the president convened all spheres to look at that matter, not specifically JB Marks, but to look at this matter of ineffective interventions, that what are the underlying reasons that interventions are not effective. One of the things that have been actually said there is, one, the delay, the time it takes to intervene. By the time you intervene, the damage is done. Two, even at time we intervene in a manner that is unaccountable. What do I mean by this? There is no system of reporting of how the intervention itself is performing. Thirdly, sometimes even the people we deploy do not what to call have the fit, the skills that befit the situation. One of the strong proposals in the past 2 days is that in South Africa, we have to improve the accountability system. Sometimes I usually say, Honorable Chair, in South Africa, there are things that we should not politicize at all. Issues like a system of accountability. That's not an ideological issue. It's an issue of making sure that people report the expenditure of the money they are using. There's no marks there, there's no angels, there's no church. It's just checking whether monies are spent, putting in place systems of accountability. There's nothing ideological in that matter. It's making sure that there's that accountability. One of the problems, I remember, we put ideology and political partisanships on matters, countries that are successful, they list issues that all parties must agree upon. That on meaningfulness of the budget, quality expenditure, efficiency, appointing skilled people, making sure that you've got quality institutions. Countries where there's unity amongst parties, in as far as those elements are concerned, those countries are very successful. Sometimes in our country, I find ourselves, we think there's a different ideology to check how much money has been spent. That thing has got nothing to do with ideology. If you're going to buy a life buoy, to check whether it is 20 rand or not, it's not ideological, it's just a mathematical thing. But sometimes we spend time debating that matter as if it's an ideological matter. One of the huge challenges our country is confronted with is that let's list issues that where across the board we work together on, and then have our political views over and above that. But at least that and say this baseline, all parties must work together. Those issues that you've spoken about, because even if the skills were weak, if the accountability system is functional, the performance of those poor skills could be easily detected if there's collaboration in that area and the elements that I've spoken about. So those are some of the things in the 2 days that have been actually identified as underlying reason why that JB Mark situation you're speaking about. Of course, the president said within 2 or 3 weeks, I think, we'll be sitting down to take that matter to conclusion so that we really now intervene and talk less about these issues. Thanks, Honorable Member.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. The third follow-up question is from Honorable Lehihi.
Thank you, Chairperson. Minister, past efforts at capacity building have been disappointing. As the exit of lack of capacity found in the different sectors, we stand as one of the main constraints to achieving government policy. In order to ensure that outcomes are met in a timeless manner, which time frame have been put in place to strengthen planning, monitoring and evaluation of government policy? Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Minister.
As I'm talking to you now, Honourable Member, our teams are in those spaces. One of the things we're trying to improve is the physical, presence. Because at a risk of being controversial here, there are municipalities that have got clean audit, yet service delivery is not in line with that. It's one of the matters we've raised with the AG. And it seems as if some of us are learning skills of misleading oversight, institutions. That's why the issue of physical inspection becomes critical. And 2, protecting the internal auditors with regard to the autonomy. Honorable members, the reason in various departments you've got internal auditors is to make sure that before the AG comes, your auditors continue to do 2 things. They do financial audit and performance audit. At the risk of boring you, repeating where I came from, one of the things we did was to make sure that when line function departments report, you ask the internal audit to go and audit the same performance. It happened that, members, there was always a gap between what the internal auditors find as performance results as against what the line function department reports. And over years, we told our line function departments, unless you meet the level of the outcomes of the financial audit, which is done by internal audit, we're not going to recognize your performance. And over years, AG was able to observe that our clean audit was consistent with the service service delivery. I hope it goes somewhere to respond to your question. Thanks.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. Last follow-up question is from Honorable Lund on a virtual platform.
Good day, Honorable House Chair, and good afternoon, Honorable Minister. Minister, all this talk of planning and monitoring and evaluation sometimes is a farce, because after all, we all know that this government is rich on talk, but poverty-stricken on implementation. And like you said yourself, you deploy people that do not always have the skill set. And that's your own words. So maybe that is where the problem starts, that the deployment of unskilled people should not be used in our municipality. Now, you also say that clean audits, it's not always, if you get a clean audit, you get clean or effective service delivery. However, there is a trend of municipalities, departments that have better audit outcomes generally deliver better services across the country. There's always exceptions to the rule. So shouldn't you just simply start with the Auditor General reports and make sure in those municipalities where you have deployed unskilled and unqualified people, you stop that practice immediately and make the changes that is required to improve those municipalities for the betterment of those citizens? Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Lund. Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Honorable Member. At the risk of being misunderstood, and I don't think you misunderstood me, generally, where there are clean audits, there's good service delivery. Maybe it's important to make that point. But there are exceptional instances where people have had a clean audit, but when the service delivery is attended to, there's a discrepancy. It's a gap that must be closed. What do we do with unqualified people? Let's stop deploying them. And that's a straightforward answer. I usually say well, you can have a branch, political branch led by whether ANC, DA, or whoever, Honorable Chair. If you deploy somebody in local government because he or she happens to be the chair of your branch, the problem with the truth of delivery is that the fact that I'm a chair of a branch or of a zone, whether I'm DA, whether I'm ANC, it doesn't necessarily give me the skills required to be a civil engineer. We've done that risk at times where we've deployed people because of their political positions. And civil engineering, where delivery requires civil engineering, it's only a civil engineer who can deliver that. And the least you can do, even if, although strongly now, which I also support, the move to have people having particular qualification, even deployed as politicians, is becoming very strong. Because if you go to municipality and look at the documents that are read there, remember when you're a political principal, it means you hold an authority over technical people who are reporting to you performance of the technical thing, which you don't understand, but you have got the authority over there. So that's why there's a need for balance between the political office. If you do not have these qualifications, an honest politician, the least you can do is to deploy in your office the people who are technically capable, so that when you assess the technical work, you take informed decisions. What is a problem is that if I've got my standard 3 and I come and ask an engineer to come and give a briefing to me, when I've got authority over the engineer, what you are putting at risk is the country and the people who are awaiting those services. It is against that articulation, Honorable Member, where I'm saying, when do we stop deploying people who are unqualified? We must stop now. Thanks.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Honorable Minister, we now come to question number 33, asked by Honorable Zandamela. Question number 33. Honorable Minister.
Can I get water, Honorable Chair?
My brother.
Hey, you
water
are
here.
Thank you very much. Yeah, new calendar.
Thank you, Honorable Skagman.
Right. DPME, who has the government-wide mandate for planning, monitoring and evaluation, supports all spheres of government with capacity development. Several interventions were undertaken to support building public sector monitoring capacity. To this end, the following public sector monitoring interventions were implemented. One, local government management improvement model, a tool being used to support and improve the performance of municipalities, focusing on management practices. Training has been provided to 146 municipalities, including metros across the 8 provinces except the Western Cape. They are trained in how to use the tool and have completed the assessments. Development of improvement plans. Development of improvement plans based on the municipal assessment that identify priority areas that require significant improvement and support. Since 2017, there are 25 improvement plans approved by municipal managers and monitored by TPME on quarterly basis. On the frontline monitoring, it's one that enables municipalities to identify challenges that need addressing. Improvement plans are then developed in consultation with the relevant stakeholders to address these issues. The current visit underway is on ideal clinics and safe schools. Capacity building training is another element. GPME in 2021 co-hosted a training course on evidence-based policymaking and implementation for local government, which was attended by 20 municipalities. In the same year, GPME implemented specific activities to build capacity for evaluations of targeted sectors and local government participation in these interventions. During this financial year, a focus will be on training on theory of change in 8 metros in order to help strengthen their capacity to inform future planning for capacity building. The DPME will later this year conduct a survey to assess evaluation capacity needs of municipalities. The minister and the deputy ministers have been supporting local government through their role as district development model champions. The current work is related to the development of refinement of one of plans which contribute to planning and stakeholder management capacity within the district municipality and municipalities. Thank you, Honorable Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. The first follow-up question is from Honorable Zandamela, who's on the virtual platform. Honorable Zandamela. Honorable Zandamela.
Thank you. Thank you.
No, it's connected, it's there. Honorable Zandamela, can you unmute yourself, please?
I'm unmuted.
Yes, ask your question. Honorable Zandamela, can you ask your question? No.
Chair, if he struggles with the technology, can we take the question, please?
Okay. Honorable Zandamela, we are passing you. We'll go to.
Chair.
Yes.
I'm sorry, Chair. You know, Honorable Zandamela is struggling with the network, not technology. That guy must stop talking things he does not know. He started struggling with the network.
If No, no problem. Honorable Aplen, you can assist if you have the follow-up question on behalf of Honorable Zandamela. Honorable Aplen?
I'm sorry, Chair, I don't have the question. I don't have-
No. Okay, let's move.
Thank you.
Let's move. Let's go to Honorable Sileku. Honorable Sileku on a virtual platform.
Honorable Chair, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you properly. Order,
Apologies-
members.
Apologies for the camera. I'm struggling with network and
Members, let's have order so that the minister can get to the question. Can you continue, Honorable Sileku?
thank you, Chair. First, let me greet the minister and greet the chair and greet all the members. Minister, I've been listening to you attentively, answering in terms of the state of municipalities and what needs to be done. And I would just like to go back to what the president of the country has said about the state of local municipalities and in his capacity as the president of the ANC, that since the local government election in 2021, there has been more municipalities that need intervention in terms of Section 139. And unfortunately, it is ANC-led municipality. Minister, the core function of your department is to plan, monitor, and evaluate. Despite all the planning, monitoring, and evaluation in the world, municipalities in South Africa still fall apart like a pack of cards in a gentle breeze. Is it because your department is simply tolerated and largely ignored? Or is it simply because under the grip of the ANC corruption, these municipalities cannot be saved? Also, listening to what you have been saying also that we need to work together and put politics aside and put our residents and country, before. Minister, is it not time that you and your department and your cadres spend serious time with the DA and learn real governance lessons from the 40 municipalities which we govern well in South Africa, and all the stats and the AG reports can confirm that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. No, he was asking that, is it not the time for all the other municipalities to go and learn from the 40 municipalities that are being run by the DA? That's the essence of his question, Minister.
Including him as the minister. Thank you very much.
Well, if you thought he was dislodging me, benchmarking is a practice. Benchmarking is a practice. Good work, it doesn't matter who does it. It's always important to learn. Well, if it makes you feel good by labeling a DA, that's another question. But the principle is that benchmarking should always be welcome. I want to repeat this. You must go and check your record. Because I thought maybe you need to respond to directly. When we were running Ekurhuleni at some stage, it was declared, Joburg also in terms of financial management, those municipalities were run by the ANC. You must go and check international records of that, where it was said these were the best run municipalities. You will check your record, it's not ANC that said that, it's international institution. The point I'm making is that I insist, let's not attach political labels on these matters. Let's discuss capacity that is necessary. And I'm saying, benchmarking, we can fight it. If there's a municipality of ANC, Honorable Chair, badly run here, next door there's DA, it's not DA that matter. It is the best way in which the next door municipality is being run. In other words, the tool of improving our people cannot be ignored because it is being used by a particular person. And some of you, by the way, I can tell you, a lot of your top managers, you've taken them from the ANC. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Minister.
No, they want a lot of money.
Thank you. Honorable Zandamela. Honorable Zandamela.
Yes, no, thanks, House Chairman. Everything just went off here. Maybe the minister can assist also with regard to this load shedding that it's affecting us when we are in Parliament. Now, my question to the minister will be, Chairperson, we know for the fact that when it comes to capacity, there are some of the managers who were, for some reasons, maybe expelled in a municipality, but they're being recycled in the system to go a manager in another municipality. What is the department doing with regard to that? Because we can't recycle a corrupt capacity in the system. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Minister.
Is that Zandamela?
Yeah, that's Zandamela.
Yes.
Thank you, Honorable Zandamela. I think I like the surname. I'm sure you would have heard a few days ago, just on the energy, the president announced the intervention plan, which is widely supported across the country by different sectors, technical institutions, and so on. The ball has been thrown back to our quarters government to implement that plan. Everyone now says, okay, that plan is right, implement it. If we come to the recycling of managers, honorable members Zandamela and other members might know there has been a challenge of implementing SIU findings. And the scope had demanded that we report from Presidency on a monthly basis. That system has actually, our intervention in that area as we make sure that SIU findings are being implemented. We've discovered a lot of weaknesses in our system. Some of them, somebody would be fired from this department and find himself working in another department. You are dealing with charges of corruption in this department. You get hired in some department. The DPME is actually studying that very close to make sure that we are able to detect those defects. Because when we do M&E system, the findings are always submitted to relevant departments for improvement. Going forward, one of the things that we are going to use is an improved system in ensuring that DPSA is capacitated to assist with the system of ensuring that there is no recycling of people who have messed up somewhere else. All I'm saying, Honorable Zandamela, it needs a system, and it means also us improving even the technology that we use to actually detect those issues. I do agree with you. Such experience has occurred, and that experience needs to be stopped. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. The third follow-up question is from Honorable, no, it's fine, Honorable Zandamela. You have asked your question. The third follow-up question is from Honorable Pongani. Honorable Hatebe.
Okay. Thank you, House Chair. Honorable Minister, the local government sphere comprises of a variety of different needs by communities. I would like to know, how is your department able to monitor and assess the specific needs by communities? And how is the department's approach adapted to suit capacity development within local government spheres, especially in relation to traditional leadership? Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much. I think your question, your follow-up is in line with the question one was trying to answer. That We are working with a lot of tools to do exactly what you're saying. Development of improvement plans, local government management improvement model, and also frontline monitoring. And we also spoke about capacity building training, where we say we cost a training course of evidence-based policymaking and implementation for local government, which was attended by 20 municipalities and so on. There's an area where we also say to you, we speak about where we are talking about stakeholders, how we involved traditional leaders in making sure that our interventions are informed by the lived experience of the people for whom those services are meant. And once we've done that, when we have findings that actually indicate the uniqueness of different situations with regard to the developmental needs, of course, these interventions that I've articulated here assist therefore to capacitate relevant operatives, be they local or province, or even national, to actually be geared to respond to the unique needs of those various communities. Of course, one of the things we've just re-established is National Planning Commission, which is beginning to demonstrate that it's alive. I'm sure you must have heard them responding to energy crisis, because National Planning Commission comprises of sorts of different experts who are given autonomy to express their views about the state of the country without fear or what to call or favor and so on. I'm sure when you had them critiquing government, there is nothing that fell. Thanks.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. The fourth follow-up question is from Honourable Moshodi. Honourable Moshodi.
Thank you very much, Lord Chairperson. Thank you, Honourable Minister, for your response. Honourable Minister, I am sure you will agree that if planning is flouted from the beginning, to expect monitoring and evaluation to get it right is a pipe dream. More often, at the heart of the challenge of development and service delivery at local government level is poor planning, sometimes not realistic or aligned with the requisite human and financial capital resources, thus raising false expectation to our people. My question, Honorable Minister, is, in this light, has the department, in collaboration with other sector departments, considered partnership with knowledge communities in different critical scarce skills area like build engineering, water resources, infrastructure development, and management, spatial development planning to assist municipality in planning? Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson and Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Honourable Moshodi. Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. Thank you. I'm trying to just repeat something that I said. All right. Maybe let's start with what the honourable member is raising. The relationship between useful monitoring evaluation and proper planning. And the need to whether we do make use of sectors that have got available skill to improve that linkage. Well, I think I cannot say it better than you have just said it, Honourable Member. Usually there is I don't know which verse in the Bible that says, you wanna reap where you didn't sow. To expect to monitor and evaluate a plan which is not measurable and realistic, it is also the waste of time of monitoring. Those are some of the things we are looking at. We are already discussing even repositioning the DPME itself to actually place it in a place where, amongst other things, it is actually working different, even DPME. One of the things one is thinking about is that, has the time not come, for instance, for DPME to acquire some autonomy so that in the amassing of skills and reporting of performance, there is no fear that a minister may not be happy. AG, when they report, they don't care who's going to say what. Once they finish their work, I'm sure you know them, they just report. But a department like ours, if it is located in the manner is, it is becoming clear that sometimes those who are not strong, maybe like yourself or somebody else, might be very careful in reporting whatever. So we are we're talking about repositioning TPME to actually acquire the status of being the most reliable lens through which the entire country follow the performance of the state. Amongst other things, it is also to deal with what you're saying, so that TPME facilitate planning and TPME is able to pronounce whether plans are authentic or not. So that even before, but there's a lot of work that is being done there. When I was still a member, still in parliament, over years, we have been able to convince even AG not to come aftermath, but to assist in looking at performance plans and make some comments whether these plans do make sense. So in other words, that's the point we are attending to. Thank you very much.
Maybe you've forgotten, Honorable Minister, you're still a member.
I agree with the chair.
Honorable Minister, we'll now come to question number 35, asked by Honorable TJ Proutenset. Honorable Minister.
The DPME has already been engaging with both the National Department of Human Settlements and the KwaZulu-Natal Provincial Department of Human Settlements to resolve some of the binding constraints in the provision of temporary residential units in the different areas in KZN province. The engagements were based largely on the findings from the DPME-led joint oversight visit with the Director General of the Department of Human Settlement on the 23rd and 4th May 2022, and the DPME frontline monitoring visits in 4 districts from 27 to the 30th of June 2022, which assessed progress on the construction of TRUs in 8 sites and provision of services in 14 mass care centers. The DPME has noted that while the displaced families were provided with shelter at the mass care centers within days of the flood disaster, there have been delays in the provisions of TRUs. The prolonged stay of people at the mass care centers has brought about new social challenges. The DPME shared the finding of its monitoring activities with relevant authorities in order to facilitate resolutions of identified challenges. Construction of TRUs is dependent on finalization of procurement processes, confirmation of viable land parcels for construction of TRUs, and the provision of basic facilities such as water. Families agreeing to relocate to TRU sites despite them being further away from schools and workplaces, profiling of beneficiaries to ensure that TRUs are provided to the right people. Some of the alternatives recommended by the TPME include requesting the private sector to assist with making land available, government to provide guarantees that TRU sites will be phased out once permanent solutions for human settlements are found. Provision of vouchers, stock materials for repair of houses, construction of TRUs in people's original homes. These are some of the alternatives the DPME proposed. Latest data provided by KZN Human Settlement indicates that construction has been completed for 736, of which 683 have been provided to households for occupation. This is in relation to the targeted 1,810 TRUs you can also see the gap. For instance, as a matter of fact, eThekwini completed, to date, 104 completed, Herikwala 93, Ilembe 243, Qetshwayo 40, Umgungundlovu 45, Kanyakude 40, Amajuba 15, Umzinyathi 50, Utukela 38. To avoid a situation where families would stay in mass care centers for much longer, the current pace of providing 50 TRUs per week needs to be tripled and grand locks resolved to finalize confirmation of land parcels for resettlement of communities that live in flood-prone areas. DPME will convene an urgent follow-up engagement with Department of Human Settlement, KZN, and the Department of Agriculture, Land Reform and Rural Development to facilitate resolution of the identified grand locks and to fast-track the delivery of human settlement interventions, which not only includes TRU, but also the provisions of support for housing repairs to enable families to exit the mass care center and get back to their homes. All the affected provinces, namely KwaZulu-Natal, Eastern Cape, Northern Cape, and Northern West, have been requested to provide progress updates on the human settlement intervention to Natal Joint Flood Coordinating Committee to inform decisions. Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. The first follow-up is from Honorable TJ Browdenson.
Thank you. Thank you, House Chair. Honorable Minister, thank you for that response. I think that you might not have all the figures at your disposal, because I'm obviously I'm right now looking down at a report from Human Settlements KZN, and the figure that was quoted by Human Settlements KZN is 4,983 homeless households. Okay. You have just said, I think, a figure of 736 TRUs built, which leaves us on 4247 that still need to be done. The procurement has been done for 1,180, but only 30% of those have been provided. And in eThekwini, which the Honorable House Chair knows is of great concern to us, because the mayor there and the deputy mayor have yet to actually meet with us in the most affected region. Only 65 TRUs have been built in eThekwini. I'm not sure if you're aware of that, House Chair. 65. So the reason I'm raising this is that the face of this is the community halls. Now, I know that other members of the House who are on this committee with me will be horrified, and I mean that, to hear that I visited recently a Mountain View community hall in Verulam, where, Minister, there were no less than 400 people residing there. 400. Now, those of us who visited community halls know that the mamas and the sisters, they all pack everything on the side nice and neatly during the day. And
the name of the place?
it's Mountain View. Mountain View Community Hall in Verulam, which is just north of Durban. This hall is so full that there's no space to pack away the bedding. And we were there at lunchtime during the day, and I can only imagine with that hall, and it's a normal community size hall, Minister. It's not some big, it's not the RTC, the RCC or something. I can only imagine what it looks like at night when there are 400 people there. And this is the outcome. So I welcome, Minister, the fact that you're going to accelerate. But Minister, can I please ask with everything, every fiber within your soul, that you make sure that that acceleration happens post-fact. Put as much possible pressure as you can on Department of Human Settlements. We have people living in the most abominable conditions. The Mountain View community hall could actually qualify for a South African Human Rights Commission case. It's that bad. And so we really have to make urgent interventions. But the real issue, other real issue I want to raise with you, Minister, is the cost of the TRUs. We hear different, every single time we visit a different community or a different municipality, they give us a different figure on the TRUs. And I'm very, very concerned, and I've raised this all the way along, that skimming is going along. That certain amounts are allocated for TRUs and are being built at a cheaper rate, a substandard rate, and skimming is happening. What level of assurance can you give us today that you, along with the AG, are monitoring the costs of the TRUs and making sure that they are built to spec and built to the right amount? And either that on the one end, that skimming is not happening, that there is being built below spec, or that we're paying a lot more for TRUs than we should actually be paying. And I think the quoted figure was 68,000 Rand. So, Minister, what level of assurance can you give us in regard to the acceleration of the housing and also the costing, so that we don't sit up with another PPE disaster where people have gotten involved with corruption?
Thank you.
Thank you, Minister.
Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Honourable Member. It's always difficult to debate numbers. There must be a wrong number. And I'm not going to say it's your number. At least we can do, for credible reporting, we must check where that discrepancy comes from. Remember, it depends sometimes how people count. Others count a household, others count people in their numbers. It's a matter that we need to check. So I don't want to debate that. All I want to say is the Mountain View situation is totally unacceptable. And there are other situations that were of similar nature when our DG TBME visited there on the 23rd and 24th. Those situations, again, don't speak well about our disaster management system. They call for, you'll understand why there's this huge call for what to call, because what we're saying is that when a disaster capacity is in place, some of us who have worked in municipalities, you know, disaster should be treated like a police squad. On daily basis, police are paraded to check their readiness to combat. Disaster, conventional, all over, they are supposed to be checked on regular basis, if indeed they are organized and ready, and naturally anticipate even cultural issues. If people in this area are displaced, they end up finding themselves away from where they stay. How do you manage those issues? Again, dignity, as you have already spoken about. How to make sure that people are not congested in a manner that put their dignity at stake. Acceleration, we have no choice. It's a matter that we've got to follow up. Even on the issue of cost discrepancy, the least we can deal with that. Remember, I said the real-time auditing by AG is on. We have not got a report yet that gives us alarm, but we must be able to ask them if the evidence of what you've just said, or remember, just that does pertain, and then follow it and actually ask the AG to reassure the country, in your words, the reason why we have AG for that matter. Thanks.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. The second follow-up question is from Honourable Detroit.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. Honourable Minister, still with the TRUs, obviously. We visited the Deelpan area in the Tswahing municipality in the Northwest Province on the 30th of June this year, as part of the ad hoc committee on the floods and disaster. And we viewed about 2 or 3 houses that were still standing in the water. We were told by the HOD that 300 houses, TRUs, needs to be built. And the amount of funds that were availed for that is 54.9 million Rand. Now, if you do this, the equation, that brings it down to 183,000 Rand per unit. where the approved ceiling amount is 78,000 rand.
How much money they say is required?
The amount that's available is 54.9 million rand for the TRUs for the Northwest Province in Deelpan. That's for 300 units. So the cost per unit or the amount per unit is 183,000 rand. Now, we inquired about this and the HOD said that he would give the relevant documentation. Again, when we had the meeting in Sandton, the same question was raised and we were again promised a report on the housing situation in Deelpan with regards to the TRUs. And up to now, I haven't received anything, and according to my knowledge on our mailing list of the disaster group, it hasn't been yet circulated to the members. My question, Minister, is will you commit to follow up on this and to see what the current situation is? Because on the 30th of June, not one TRU was built.
30th of June.
Yes. This year. We went for oversight visits, but we didn't see one unit that was built. I know the roads are disastrous, but funds were availed for that as well. So if you could commit to follow up and give us feedback, it would be appreciated, please.
Thank you, Honorable Minister.
The least we can do is to follow up. Thanks, Honorable Chair. Thanks, Honorable Member.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. The next follow-up question is from Honorable Khai. Honorable Khai.
No, thank you very much, Honorable House Chair, and thanks to the Minister. Minister, my question would be, the President, with regard to financial accountability, came up with the concept of a real-time audit. I just want to find out whether we should not also have a real-time performance monitoring that will be happening on daily basis, so that the delays and challenges that are faced by people, particularly in KZN, who are in what you call the mass centers, can be addressed immediately, but also whether the capacity that is in DPME cannot also be sent down to provinces to assist in the provinces and the municipalities that are affected. Thank you very much, Honorable House Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Khai. Honorable Minister.
Real-time AG and real-time monitoring. I think at the beginning, it's what we're trying to do. Remember, the first visit there was together with the President. 2 days later, the PME team was sent. Again, there are instances where you are not sure whether line function leaders understand the purpose of M&E the same way anyone else is supposed to understand. I remember as a project I was going to visit in the north with my team in TPME, one colleague said, that is my area of work. And I had to say to this colleague, no, I'm not going to do your work there, I'm going to do mine. So those are some of the things that we need to clear, that if I come, for instance, to a bridge that is being constructed, it's not because DPME is building that bridge. DPME has a legal duty to actually, as an independent institution, to check if the implementation, execution, and funds that are implemented are as the plans that are before the President. So your point is taken, but again, it still goes back. Can you imagine if the disaster management systems, for instance, the M&E of the disaster is not similar to any other M&E. You wish the M&E system of disaster is inbuilt so that it doesn't depend on an institution coming to follow. It's independent and inherently built M&E system so that as the crisis comes in, you automatically reflect on the MNE side. The situation as they unfold, and actually, again, digitization and many other things will go a long way. So I think your point is taken. We tried, but I think it can be organized differently and better. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. The fourth follow-up question is from Honourable Lehihi. Honourable Lehihi. Right at the back. Yeah, it's
Ke a
on.
leboga. Mokhuduthamaga, which measures has the minister put in place to ensure that beneficiaries will receive houses allocated to them within reasonable time? And which steps shall be taken to ensure that temporary residential units, which are only intended for short periods of time, do not become permanent features? Ke a leboga, Modulasetulo.
Thank you, Honourable Minister.
I think to a greater extent, one has responded to that question, except the last point where what measures are there to make sure that those are not permanent structures. Remember, in our opening, we spoke about the availability of land, how far from the original house, and all those kind of things. What role can private sector? It actually calls for a lot of things, depending on the damage of the house and some systems. You might have heard or remember the president speaking about the red tape. One thing that we are very weak at is our responsiveness. Our system has to improve in time. I'll give you an example. For instance, we are going to Cabinet Lekgotla very soon. Other plans emerge out of that within a year, we must carry A and get over and done with it. And only realize as we concretize the plan that there's a need for legislative amendment for a plan whose effect must be this year. You find that legislative amendment take 3 years. There's a lot of such situations. Even now, as we speak, the president, the plan the president has put together might require that certain regulations be removed so that that which must impact in energy within 18 months does it in 18 months. But you find that to change that regulation, there's an act I came across. I think it's coming to Parliament. I just can't remember. And this bill has been there since 2005. I mean, so those are some of the things that we really need to deal with. Otherwise, we're becoming a joke in terms of being a reliable institution to deal with the immediate issues that are affecting people. So there's a need for overhauling our system so that our system help us to respond timeously to issues. Thanks.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. Honourable Minister, we now comes to question number 45, asked by Honourable Dango. Honourable Minister, your last question of the day.
That's it.
Yeah.
You. Yeah. I was already looking forward to 7 p.m. Thanks, Member Dango. Repositioning of the PCC, the Presidential Coordinating Council, is an intergovernmental coordinating body that comprises the President, Premier Salga, with the Metro Mayors in attendance, and is managed by the Minister of Cooperative Government and Traditional Affairs. This structure is complemented by other intergovernmental bodies, such as Premier Coordinating Forum at the provincial level and coordinating structures supporting the district business, the district development model. This structure is strategically positioned to address several issues and other matters of national interest. The council has been inundated with matters relating to water supply, drought, electricity supply, sanitation, transport matters, state of local government, implementation of the back to basics, program, district district development model approach, and other range of service delivery matters, such as well as progress on the implementation of National Development Plan, as translated in our MTSF. The country has just gone through a serious pandemic and related lockdown. To manage that, integrated governance structures had to be implemented to stabilize the country and ensure recovery. Many in the country have reflected and commented on the efficiency and effectiveness of structures put into place to protect country and bring it back to stability. With those structures having been dissolved, there's a push to infuse the learnings of that period into normal governance and intergovernmental structures. The country is looking into how to infuse an efficient and a collaborative intergovernmental, looking into how to infuse an efficient and collaborative intergovernmental system into managing the day-to-day delivery and developmental challenges. A key structure supporting the PCC is the district development model that is being rolled out to create a solid foundation for an optimal and efficient intergovernmental system. It is envisaged that DDM having the one plan will facilitate efficient and effective service delivery issues with respect to bulk water supply, SCOM crisis, public transport crisis, especially the passenger rail transport and crime and security. Coordinating at the district level will also enable an upward flow of information from DDM to the Premier's Coordinating Forum, to the President's Coordinating Council at the apex of that system. Alignment and seamless integration across different levels will result in visible impacts on the important delivery and developmental challenges, such as stabilizing and optimizing the grid and the water and sanitation system and its catchment areas, etc. This impact will require improvement at each level of the system. To this end, improvements are now being explored with respect to Premier's Coordinating Forum in each province and the President Coordinating Council at apex of the system, with the impetus of the implementation of the DGM and the ongoing conversation results should become evident in the short time if these interventions are implemented. Thank you, Honorable Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. The first follow-up question is from Honorable Dango. Ambassador.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister, for your response, which inspires hope in our people about the capacity of our governance system to reinvent itself in pursuit of a better quality of life for all. Are the mechanisms in place to ensure the integrity of the reports from the provinces and local government to the national government, especially as they relate to the policy impact on the lives of our people? Minister, on a separate matter, I'm sure you'll join me as we wish the Honorable Sileko happy birthday. It's his birthday today, and hope that as he transitions from an illiberal liberal to a neocon that has benchmarking in place. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Dango.
Don't spoil it, Ambassador, please.
Honorable Sileko, it's one of those that we're asking you.
Honorable
Sileko.
Where is Honorable Sileko?
Sileko, it's on the virtual platform. It's one of those that ask a follow-up
Happy birthday,
question.
Honorable Sileko. Happy birthday.
Thank you, Patis.
That is it.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Honorable Dango. What a way to respond to a question of one of my mentors. And I'm trying to stand up straight and be careful how I respond to the question, because I suspect he will check whether his teachings did indeed go down. Thank you, Honorable Dango. The question you're asking is there a system to ensure that at a provincial level, the reports that are submitted do have the credibility? I think when we say, for instance, you spoke yourself about Provincial Coordinating Council, we also reflect on Premier's Coordinating Forum. we also reflect on the district development model as a number of measures to integrate government. You know, you will be shocked to realize how a lot of cost in South Africa comes from silo mentality. How a lot of failures come from silo mentality. A lot of inefficiencies come from silo mentality. For instance, if you look at the district development model, I spent time at Herigwala, where I'm the champion. You look at what it can achieve. You find that a project is not implemented, which is required by local government, because a particular resource they do not have, which the provincial government does have. But that project is put aside and the skill is around the corner from the province. National has that resource. Some of these things don't need even a new budget. If you can look at a number of resources that you require for a given project and how a number of them have been badly implemented, and how is that related and attributed to the basic thing of working seamlessly. If you get my report, I hope DA will take this into account. There's a number of interventions, one or two when I read here. The DPM says we'll go to 8 provinces. And you find that the province which is not there is a DA-led province. And I'm saying there is no contradiction, because in our constitution, there are national competences, exclusively national. There are those which are cooperative in line with Section 3. There are those that are exclusive to a sphere. But what is interesting, all these things, when we implement them in a common node. The fact that a particular development in a particular area is led by DA doesn't change that there are national implications in executing that program. If that relationship is not actually taken care of, what fails is the project purely by not doing what is basic, coordination. For instance, if you say you want to build a clinic here in this node, and let's say that's a provincial or a competence, but there are regulations or laws or there are authorities that must be approved, that there are approvals that require national, national approval. You find that the project it's waiting because you don't want to work with national, because national happen to be a different part. Or maybe national decides to play games because those who are leading in that local area happen to be a different party. Those are the things when I said there are things this country must be able to put together and say, in as far as these areas of work are concerned, let's commit to non-partisanship. Because you'll find that 80% of the strictures of development come from that, those basic issues. I'm trying, Honorable Chair, to make a case that let's liberate our country from silo mentality. Let's benefit our country through seamlessness in working together, because there's a speed there, there's quality, and there's predictability. Thanks.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. The second follow-up question is from Honorable Mutsamai, who's on the virtual platform. Honorable Mutsamai. Honorable Mutsamai. Okay, we'll move. The next follow-up question, the question, Honorable Minister, is from Honorable Hatebe, who's in the House. Honorable Hatebe.
Honorable House Chair, Honorable Minister, it is very well to strategically reposition the Presidential Coordinating Council However, the ministers responsible for the above mentioned issues are not effecting change within an acceptable time frame. I would like to know, according to the Minister of Water and Sanitation, we lose up to 60% of bulk water supply due to dysfunctional infrastructure. How does the repositioning of the PCC support capacity building in addressing the issues of water loss throughout the country? Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister.
Yeah, well, I think that follow-up is a very, you would want a follow-up like that after such a torture. If there's one area where there is a significant intervention, which is beginning to be demonstrated, is in the water. You go to Machabe, you go to, what are those Sutu names? Says Pofu, what?
Maluti Apofu.
Maluti Apofu, Harry Smith, and so on. That department under Minister Nkunu and DG Sean Phillips is one of the departments, in my view, recently that are beginning to show. When plans are in place and when times are respected, when planning is in order, there's a difference that you're going to make. So I think, Honorable Hatebo, what we need to do is to ask the minister to come and do progress report. I remember I was in Guyana at some stage. I was not there about water. Remember in Guyana, there's a dam there, which has got no reticulation. People who are around don't have water, but there's a dam with water around. That pattern applies in a number of areas. People said to me, I was not there for it. They said to me, please tell the Minister of Water, we see a difference that is taking place here now. All what I'm saying is that the difference is that they see work that is being done. Whether that work has delivered water now is a different issue. All I'm saying that question that you've raised is in an area where, Honorable Chair, I would strongly advise, call the Minister of Water. You can get better report in his institutional changes that is taking place and how what is called National Strategy Water Infrastructure Agency. That was tabled in the cabinet, it was yesterday, to actually send it for consultation to make sure that there's a central planning with regard to analyzing, detecting water resources, and also putting infrastructure in a more integrated way. Because if there's one thing you cannot afford not to have, it's water. And I think why it is important. I'm from in the Eastern Cape, where I was born in Ngobo. I mean, sometimes my own rural town doesn't have water, but within the town, there is water that has never gone there's a river that has never gone without water. It's called Nojan. I was asked, how does it happen that when there's such a perennial river? In my area, in that rural area, I can list the rivers there that have never gone without water, which are from the mountain. But it happens that we do not have water. And this intervention now that the minister is actually doing on the Agency for Water Infrastructure and integration in securing water, making it secured, available, clean. That intervention, I think the minister, if he comes here, he can put you in a better light. But I want to reassure you, that's the area where interventions are beginning to excite. It's going to be a long road, but there's clarity that, so one of the most important things is that the way they are intervening, even if you don't have water now, you can see where they are intervening, a difference is being made. Thank you, Honorable Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. The last follow-up question is from Honorable Presidency. Honorable TJ.
Thank you, House Chair. House Chair, Minister, with the recent establishment of the National Energy Crisis Committee, NECOM, and the fact that your ministry does not account to a portfolio committee in Parliament, will you support the DA proposal of a parliamentary ad hoc committee to oversee the work of NECOM, given the grave dangers that the continuing energy crisis poses to the Republic. Thank you.
Honorable Minister.
And I call you TJ.
Honorable TJ.
Honorable TJ. I'm not going to say how it should be done, whether there's a committee. I am a fan of accountability. Even in my party, they know. When it comes to accountability, I've said it several times, even to the organization, that those of us who are deployed as members here in Parliament are not deployed to be the subcommittees of those who are in the executive. And I want to state that point. They are deployed to make sure that even the party programs that are being implemented by